Deputy President. I think we should keep having peace in Australia because of many reasons. Firstly, we are lucky to be able to go to school safely. I'm allowed to go to school and learn. It does not matter if I am rich or poor. Even poor children can go to school. It does not matter if I believe in God or not. I don't mind if anyone believes in God or not. I like certain people for who they are. It is good that we don't have guns. Guns kill people, adults or children. Let's live in peace. This beautiful reflection was written for me by a Year 3 student, Marcus, from Eden Hills Primary School in South Australia, who entered the Australian Greens Makepeace Prize in 2014. I started the prize to raise awareness about the important work of Australian peacekeepers and their contribution to a more secure and peaceful world. And students from schools across my home state in South Australia entered artwork, poetry, short stories and digital pieces, all centred on the theme of peacekeepers and peace more broadly. I found their interpretations of peace and the role of peacekeepers in our world thoughtful and inspiring, heartening. Out of the mouths of babes, as they say, came some poignant observations that we as adults could do well to ponder more deeply, especially at a time when we can't help but feel that the dogs of war are gathering again. I believe it's vital that we encourage learning about peace and non-violence. Given our current global context, teaching about peace is now more important than ever. I don't want students growing up in a world where military might is seen as the only solution to complex global issues. Last Sunday, the 21st of September, was United Nations International Day of Peace. At a time when we're commemorating the centenary of the outbreak of the First World War, and Australia is on the brink of yet another Middle East war, it seemed a timely occasion to focus on the hard work of peace building and peacemaking. I had the pleasure on Sunday of attending a service and festival, the Communities of Peace, at Scott's Church in Adelaide, which attracted over 20 organisations who are all dedicated to waging peace, including the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom and Amnesty International. They came together to discuss and see what can create conditions for peace on the level of individuals, within communities and around the world. As we think about ongoing conflicts in Syria, Iraq, the Democratic Republic of Congo, sectarian violence in Nigeria, violence in the Central African Republic and so many other places around the globe, we realise that peace is incredibly fragile and yet incredibly precious. As Marcus wrote in his entry to the Makepeace Prize, peace enables children to go to school. Education, a basic right which is not yet a reality for so many who live in constant conflict. And there are also the many post-conflict states like Rwanda, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Cambodia and Timor-Leste, where the wounds of war are ever present in the stories of those who've lived through the conflict and a country's ongoing and sometimes never-ending journey towards a stable peace. Healing from war and conflict and achieving reconciliation are also crucial. The Australian Greens Makepeace Prize enabled me to visit schools to talk to students about the proud history of Australia's peacekeepers, who've played a crucial role around the world since 1947, providing support in some of the world's most dangerous conflict zones. I found that the students were so receptive and inspired and moved by the courage and service of our peacekeepers, and there was one group of students who were asked to reflect on the discussion we'd had in the class and what were the most salient things that they took away from it. And certainly one young person said that he was so impressed that we were involved in Australia in the first peacekeeping mission ever in 1947. Another child explained that they found it really fascinating to know that an Australian peacekeeper had been serving somewhere in the world every day since then. And certainly there were those students, and these were students of 12 and 13, mature thinking children, who were really interested in the fact that Australian peacekeepers are subject to rules of engagement, which means that they have to be extremely disciplined in the way they defend themselves and others. And in fact, it's this discipline which causes sometimes the stress and the post-traumatic dealing with the conflict that they've experienced when they've had to sometimes stand by and see terrible things done to civilians. As well as writing, the students provided me with artwork, and some of that is actually going to be available on my website if anyone would like to have a look at that. One student, Shakila from Crossways Lutheran School, who's 13, her theme was reconciliation, and she talked about the importance of learning from past mistakes in her entry to the Makepeace Prize. So she said, "It is when we don't try to fix the mistakes that things get worse. We can look back at history, but we can't take it back. It's gone. What we need to do is look towards the future to make sure mistakes are not repeated." Another student, Adette, was in Year 6, and she wrote a beautiful poem about peace. "Red as the blisters on our hearts, orange and yellow as the burning sun, green-eyed for the other side, washed in an ocean of tears, purple ruined as your power is thrown, black and burned as the fire rises." We also received a wonderful short story from a student called Amber, who attends Bridgewater Primary School. Amber is 12. The main character dreams of becoming a peacekeeper, and after a great deal of hard work achieves this goal. It was a long and very rich story. As the peacekeeper protagonist in Amber's story reflects, "We wanted to change things and make everything better, fair, equal. We all wanted to bring peace. Being a peacekeeper was quite appalling at times, but you didn't just stop, you kept on going, because you couldn't abandon your goals, and most importantly, you couldn't abandon innocent people." It was certainly a big weekend for me when it comes to peace. I also had the pleasure of attending the 25th anniversary dinner of the Graham F. Smith Peace Foundation in Adelaide. Graham was a teacher and a maker and bringer and worker towards peace who died far too young. And since then there's been an anniversary, there's been a dinner every year, and the Peace Foundation supports and sponsors grants for art and artists to promote the building and maintaining of peace. The guest speaker at the dinner was Sophie Hyde, who's the South Australian director and co-writer of the innovative film 52 Tuesdays, which has been feted at film festivals around the world. And Sophie's theme was the importance of telling stories from diverse viewpoints, diverse writers, diverse characters and diverse directors. And she made the really compelling point that indeed it's by going and reading stories and watching stories on the screen that enables us to get inside someone else's skin, that enables us to walk in someone else's shoes. It enables us to develop that empathy and insight and understanding, which means that it is far more difficult to see people as other and to not understand them, and it's much easier to be able to celebrate and embrace diversity and live together with understanding and peace. At this time, a time when our community is being, I think, increasingly divided by fear and suspicion because of the circumstances that we're finding ourselves in, it's even more important that we actually have the opportunity to develop that empathy and that insight, and we reach out and connect with each other. And anyone watching Q&A last night would have been moved, I think, to hear about the experiences of Muslim people living in Australia at the moment and the antagonism and the distrust and suspicion and fear that they're receiving. People who are Australians, who have been living here throughout their lives, they're living here for generations indeed, and they are experiencing that kind of suspicion and exclusion. So in the end, I think it comes down to a really important choice for us, especially as we are living in a very, very troubled time. And I think it's very easy for people to end up being driven by fear and anger and hostility, which in the end will damage all of us. In Amnesty International, there's a saying that I really cherish. It's a saying that basically, when things are bleak, it comes down to a choice. We can either light a candle or we can curse the darkness. I always think in situations like this, it's far, far better to light a candle, however small that may feel to be. And so in doing so, I think we can all work for a community that is far more peaceful and inclusive, and part of that can just be stretching out, reaching out to understand our neighbours and the people that we're meeting every day.